Yo, it's your boy, Ray Mabry, and I am so excited to come to you because we're going to talk about making money and not just making any amount of money. We're going to talk about making at least $10,000 a month, wholesaling real estate. And mainly, we're going to dive into it to discuss really what wholesaling is. And I'm going to give you just one particular technique that you can go out here, you can implement tomorrow or even today, depending on when you're watching this video, to go and start making money right now, okay? So this is not any fluff. I'm gonna give you actionable steps. And if you go out here and you apply this stuff, you're gonna go out here, you're gonna have success, all right? Thank you for joining. I appreciate you being a part of the group. Let's dive into it. For those of you that may not know me, my name is Ray Mabry. I'm a full-time real estate entrepreneur here in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. I've been in this business, believe it or not, 5 years now. I started back early March of 2014, and I was able to go out here and get my first deal done within the first 30 days, and I made $5,000. What I did was I reinvested a portion of that $5,000 back into my business, and in the second month, I was able to make $9,500, and I haven't looked back since then. Now, I will tell you, I do things a lot differently now than I did back then. I'm going to explain that to you as well, but I just want to let you know that this business works. I also want to let you know that that's not typical. A lot of you have been in this business for a while, and you may be 90 days into it. You might be 6 months into it. It might even be a year into it and haven't closed your first deal yet. So I'm going to give you just one particular technique to go out here and start making money today. Start making money this month, all right? It's going to take some work. It's going to take some effort. But if you go out here and you apply it, you're going to get results, all right? And what I'm going to share with you today is nothing new in the sense where it's not a technique you haven't heard of before, but I'm going to dive deep and let you know how you can go out here and be the most effective at it, all right? Because this stuff works, okay? When I started 5 years ago, I started off in direct mail. And I started doing direct mail for the first full year, and then I transitioned into cold calling. And cold calling basically just means, just what it sounds like, you're calling the person out of the blue. They're not expecting your call. It's a cold call, all right? And that's what I've been doing since then. And I tell you, we don't do any direct mail now, all right? I currently have 2 full-time virtual assistants, which I refer to them as lead agents. And I'm also hiring another 3 or 4 new VAs this week alone to continue to grow, train them, and continue to go out here and close these deals, get these deals on the contract, and get these deals flipped. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to dive into one particular technique, as I told you before, and we're going to talk about driving for dollars. Okay, driving for dollars is going to be one of the main things we're going to focus on tonight, and one of the reasons why is I want to take it from a standpoint, if you have zero money, if you have zero to little money, this is something that you can go out here, you can do starting tomorrow to start generating leads, putting these properties on a contract, and flipping these contracts to end buyers for a profit. Now, for those of you that may not know what wholesaling is, it's just what I just said. You're going to go out here, you're going to market to a motivated seller. You're going to negotiate with that motivated seller. You're going to take that property and you're going to put it on a contract. I normally use a 1-page contract. From there, you're going to advertise that 1-page contract to an end buyer, and he or she is going to pay you a higher amount than what you have it under contract for, and you're going to make the spread. So just using basic numbers, you negotiate a property for $50,000. It's worth, say, $125,000. You market it, you get a buyer to pay you, say, $60,000. That's a $10,000 spread. The buyer brings the money to the closing, and you make the $10,000 profit. That's wholesaling 101. It's a signing a contract. Sometimes people get bent over the difference between assignments and wholesales or whatever. It's all the same, all right? And so don't overcomplicate this business, all right? The business can be tough, and I often say it's a tough business because you have to go out here and know how to market to these sellers. You have to go out here and know how to negotiate with these sellers and get these properties under contract. You have to go out here and know how to find these cash buyers that's willing to pay you a higher price for that property, and you make the difference. And you have to be able to coordinate all that with a title company or a closing attorney to make sure that he or she knows what they're doing so they won't kill your deal as well. But we're going to focus in on driving for dollars, D4D, driving for dollars, okay? I know some of you do it, some of you may not do it, but I think if you have no money to get started with, or you have very limited resources, this is going to probably be your number one technique to go out here and start making money today, this month. You can get in your vehicle, you can go and start driving different neighborhoods, find these properties, get them written down, contacting these sellers directly, and then start negotiating with them to see what you can get these properties on the contract. All right. So this is if you have a low budget or no budget. If you have little to no money, this is what I would do. Now, there are other techniques to go out here and can kind of get you to the front of the line a lot quicker that doesn't require you to go and drive for dollars. However, I'm coming from a standpoint if you have little to no money. All right. So just keep that in mind. We're going to focus on driving for dollars tonight. Okay. Now, I know some of you say, well, Ray, I've been doing this and, I drive for dollars every week and I'm not making $10,000 a month. Bear with me, all right? Just stay with me to the end. I'm going to address that as well. All right, so first thing you have to realize is when you're out here driving for dollars, know that this is a crowded area. And what I mean by that is a lot of times people that get started in this business, they come in with little to no money to work with. And so what that means is, let's say you're barely getting by, you want to get started in wholesaling, but your funds are tight, your resources are tight. A lot of other people may be in that same situation, so you're going to have a lot of other people going out here and driving for dollars and trying to hit up these same sellers that you're hitting up. So one thing you have to keep in mind is, how are you going to stand out from the crowd? How are you going to differentiate yourself from the other 5 or 10 people that's sending them postcards, sending them letters, or cold calling them? All right? This is something very, very important you have to really, really hone in and remember. Now, people do business with who they know, like, and trust. That's always true. But you have to present yourself in a way where it has to be memorable. You have to come off in a way where you're personable. You have to have confidence. Even if you have never done a deal before in your life, you have to come off as, I'm the person that's here to help you out. All right? I'm the person that's going to be able to help solve your problems. And it's going to come down to, if the numbers work or not. All right. So it's mentality, mindset. We often talk about that. You have to go in with the right mindset that I'm here to serve this person. I'm here to help this person out. This person has this property over here that's falling apart, and I'm going to come to their rescue. I'm going to be the one to come and help them solve this problem. Okay. So what do you look for when you're out driving for dollars? All right. I know most of you know this, but some of you don't know this. And so these are some key things that I teach and I look for when I'm out driving for dollars. And driving for dollars is just what it says. You're driving neighborhoods, you're driving areas, and you're looking for properties that's dilapidated, that's run down, that's not the nicest properties in the neighborhood. You're looking for, abandoned properties that's, say, boarded up, properties that may have high grass. And high grass is not always a good indicator because some people don't cut the grass. And so you don't want to be driving up to people's yards or houses thinking it's vacant where somebody may be inside the house. So you don't want that to happen, but that is still a clear indicator that the house may be vacant if it's high grass. You also want to look for missing mailboxes. A lot of times the mailboxes will be missing, or they'll be torn down, or they'll be broken, or whatever. That's another key indicator, because if it's occupied, then they have to have a way to get their mail and stuff. All right. Old newspapers, old phone books, something that's on the steps, on the porch. That's another clear indicator if the property is vacant or not. Another thing is if the meter is missing. Now the meter thing could be a little tricky because the meter could be on the back side of the property. And as I just stated, you don't want to be walking on somebody's property, especially if it's occupied, thinking that it's vacant, and then somebody be like, hey, what you doing on my property? You're trespassing. So you have to be careful when you start trying to go and look for meters. But that's another thing to look for is if the meter is missing. Old cars. Sometimes people leave old cars. They just leave them behind. Another good thing too is if the blinds and stuff are like raggedy, if they're torn, if it's, the windows are broken. If you see paper notices and stuff on the doors or on the windows, those are all clear indications that that property may be vacant. All right. So what we're trying to do now is identify a vacant property. As I said before, we're driving for dollars. This is something that everyone listening to me, can go out and do it today, then go out and do it tomorrow. All right. Now, I'm going to tell you how to go and make this $10,000 because believe it or not, if you haven't made $10,000 before, let me just say this too. It sounds like a huge number. It sounds like a huge feat or huge accomplishment if you haven't made $10,000 before. But the average wholesale deal can be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. So if it's $5,000 on average, that's only 2 deals a month. And of course, if it's $10,000, that's only 1 deal a month. All right, you have to kind of look at it from that standpoint. Well, let's say if it's $3,500 per deal, that's three deals a month. So what you got to do is, if you want to go out here, remember I said stand out from the crowd. Once you start talking to these sellers and you start negotiating, you start knowing how to build rapport, your negotiation skills are going to get better. And what that means is, when you first get started, it may take you 3 deals to make $10,000. But as you do it over and over and over again, it may take you 2 deals the next time. Or it may even take you 1 deal the 3rd or 4th or 5th time. So you have to kind of hone in your skills. You have to stop being scared. Stop being concerned that the person may get upset with you, or you may offend the person, or, I may be too embarrassed to offer this type of this amount to the seller. The worst the seller can tell you is no. Now, of course, they may have some choice words for you, but remember, you got to be willing to go through a lot of rejection. If you're driving for dollars and you cold calling people, that's one of the main things you have to keep in mind is you're going to go through a whole lot of no's. You're going to have to go through a whole lot of rejections to get the yeses. If it was just a thing where every person, if you called 10 people and 7 said yes, that's just not a reality. I mean, we all would be multimillionaires if that was the case. You may call 10 people and not get any of them. Then what do? You have to go out here and find 10 more to call, or 20 more to call, or 50 more to call. It's a numbers game, okay? Remember, mindset. If you go in it with the right mindset, then you're already ahead of everyone else. A lot of times people want to look at the end result and say, okay, $10,000 is the goal. But remember, to get to that $10,000 goal, what kind of person do you need to become? What kind of person do you need to develop? What kind of skills do you need to develop in order to be able to make that amount of money? It's not hard to make that kind of money when you know how to make it, all right? And I'm just giving you this one technique on how to go out here and do it now, right now. But the key thing is finding the property, locating the properties. That's just part of the battle. Matter of fact, that's the easiest part of it. You're just going and identifying a property that looks vacant. You're going to identify rundown properties. That's fine. What you got to make sure you focus on is how you're going to come up with a script to have these conversations with these sellers. How you're going to find out these sellers' needs. How you're going to find out their hot buttons, or how you're going to find out their situations. How you're going to have an intelligent conversation with these people. That's something that you really, really need to focus on when you start making these calls, because that's going to make you different from me, different from the other investor. We're not the only ones calling these sellers. Keep that in mind. These sellers get postcards and letters, and people door knock them all the time. They get calls all the time. So what's going to make that seller go with you versus the next person? It has to be you. You are the X factor. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Making the $10,000 is not hard when you know what to do. But one thing you have to keep in mind is, who do you have to become in order to make that amount of money and more? That needs to be your focus. That needs to be your main focus, really, is what person do I need to become? What kind of skill set do I need to learn in order to connect with these sellers to have him or her decide to sell me their property versus the next investor, okay? So keep that in mind. So we've identified the property. All right, you went through, it's boarded up, all the things I just shared with you about the newspapers and missing mailboxes. It doesn't have to have. It does not have to have all those things, but as long as it has 1 or 2 of them, then that's good. That's a good starting point. All right. So from there, what I like to do is, of course, you're gonna write the address down, and depending on your schedule, let's say if you're gonna go make a whole day out of this, what you want to do is you just want to go and collect addresses. You want to write the address down, and you also want to take a picture. Take several pictures. And in the notes, when you write the address down, you might want to say blue house, black shutters. Or, you can when you write down the address, you want to put something like missing mailbox, something that can identify it, because you're going to go and you just collecting addresses, okay? And let's say at the end of the day, you get 30 addresses. So you went and made a whole day out of this. You get 30 addresses. The next thing you want to do is you want to skip trace these addresses, okay? Now, a good free resource as far as skip tracing is truepeoplesearch.com, true, True, truepeoplesearch.com, or fastpeoplesearch.com. I'm going to say it again, truepeoplesearch.com or fastpeoplesearch.com. Those are like free websites that I even have my virtual assistants / lead agents use, okay? So they can use it from the Philippines. You can use it here from the States. Now, of course, the information is not going to be 100% accurate, but remember, we're just trying to go out here. We're trying to get this activity going, okay? So you're going to skip trace them. Next thing you're going to do, you're going to pick up the phone. You're going to cold call them. When you cold call them, now, let me back up. Let's say you don't have a lot of properties that you're going to go look at. And instead of getting 30, let's say you have 5 or 10. Like, let's say you only have 30 minutes or an hour to do this on your lunch break or whatever. You want to go and try to get as many leads as possible. But let's say you're in an area where it's only like 1 or 2 vacant houses. Then go ahead and call them while you're there at the property. And when you have this conversation, you're going to call them. You're going to introduce yourself. Hey, how you doing? My name is Ray Mabry. I'm a real estate investor. I know some people say don't introduce yourself as a real estate investor, but I would like to say introduce yourself as a real estate investor, because what you're trying to do is set the atmosphere, set the tone. Sometimes people will say, oh, my girlfriend and I, my wife and I, we was looking at your property, we wanted to buy it. First of all, we're looking at rundown properties. So a lot of times people are not looking at those type of properties to buy, to own. They're looking at them to fix and flip them or rent them out. And sometimes these areas may be in, B minus, C class neighborhoods. So I wouldn't take it from that approach, because that's not the truth. Introduce yourself as an investor and just say, hey, I wanted to reach out to you to see if you was interested in selling your property for cash. And then you be quiet and listen to see what the response is. Now, also remember too, whenever you call somebody, especially if it's a cold call, you always want to ask them how they're doing. Hey, this is Ray Mabry. I'm calling about your property over here at 229 South Street. How you doing today? And when you ask them how they're doing today, their response is going to determine what kind of mood they're in. All right. Sometimes it may be like, I'm fine, and you. And then you respond, hey, I'm doing great. I'm having an awesome day. I'm having a marvelous day. Thanks for asking. Then you can say the reason for my call is, and then you start just, hey, I'm a real estate investor. I was driving the neighborhood. I saw your property. It looks like it's vacant. I'm not quite sure, but I wanted to see if you was interested in selling it for cash, or if you was interested in receiving a cash offer for it. And remember, once you say something like that, you got to be quiet. Once you say what you got to say, just be quiet. A lot of times, people like to talk over another person. That's actually a pet peeve of mine. It's like, if we're having a conversation, having a discussion, I'm going to let you talk. I'm going to sit back, I'm going to listen, and I'm going to let you talk. I'm going to hear you out. When you're through talking, I want to have that same liberty. I want to be able to talk, express myself, share what I have to share. But the moment you start cutting me off or start talking over me, I'm ready to end this conversation. Same thing when it comes to you. Remember that you're talking to a stranger. You're talking to a potential seller here. You've got to be courteous enough to let this person talk, but at the same time, you got to be able to listen and hear what they're saying and not saying, and don't be so quick to just rush off the phone, or be so afraid that you may say something to offend the seller. Remove all emotions from these cold calls. That's another thing I share with my VAs and my clients and stuff, is you can't take this personal. The worst they can say is, no, they may swear at you, they may even call you a name, but it's not that serious to where you have to take it personal. Don't be so easily offended when somebody comes at you a wrong way, or somebody says something that may hurt your feelings. All right. What you got to do is, hey, I see this property over here. How can I help you? I'm extending a helping hand. Maybe that person would accept it. Maybe that person would knock it away. But either way, you can't take that to heart that, hey, they rejected me. They may say it's not for sale. Hang up. Or they may say, look, I'm tired of you people calling, y'all scavengers or y'all scammers or whatever. Hey, look, I apologize. I can take you off my list or whatever, but thank you for your time. And, a lot of times I try to still get a referral out of them, even if they're rejecting me, but that's another conversation for another time too. Okay, so you're going to cold call them. You're going to introduce yourself. You're going to find out what's going on with them, and you're going to see if you can put a deal together. Now, Here's another thing too, and this is very, very key when you're making cold calls. You're already at the property or you already seen the property. A lot of times these sellers may be out of the area. Okay, so they don't know really what's going on with the property. So you may have to be like, yeah, I noticed this was going on. I noticed he had some papers, some notices on the door, this, and that. And, I noticed the grass was extremely high and you had some code violation notices and stuff. And you say, my team and I, we buy properties as is. We pay all cash and we can usually close fairly quickly if we can agree on some type of cash offer. And then say, how much do you need for the property? How much do you need for the property? It's not a question of how much they want. It's always about how much they need. And remember, just get them talking, Also ask them too. Always get in the habit whenever you're making cold calls and you're talking with people, sellers in general, you got to find out what other properties do you have that you need to sell for cash. Don't ask them, hey, do you have any other properties? No, that's a closed-ended question. Hey, what other properties do you have that you need to sell for cash? I know some people will be like, I only have a certain amount of money. I'm going to either buy this property or your neighbors. I don't take that approach. I take the approach that, hey, I want to buy this property. I want to buy the other 2 or 3 properties you have, and I want to buy anybody you can refer me property. I wanted to come from a standpoint that, hey, we're flowing in abundance and we're trying to buy any and every property we can get our hands on as long as it's a deal. Don't come from a scarcity mindset where I'm either going to buy your property or your neighbor's property, because it doesn't leave you anywhere to go if they have another property or if they have a referral or whatever for you, or referrals. It doesn't really help you out in a sense to say, I only have enough for one property. So just keep that in mind. So you're having a conversation with them. You're finding out if they're motivated, if they're not, or whatever. And sometimes, I'm going to tell you, a lot of times these folks are not going to be motivated. You may call them at a bad time. You may call them when they're at work or whatever. So if that's the case, then say, hey, I apologize. On what time do you get off work, or, what time can I give you a call back later on today, or either in the morning or whatever. But always set it to where you're calling them back. Because sometimes they'll be like, hey, I can't talk now. I'll call you back. Okay, great. What time will you be available later on this afternoon? And get them to commit to a time and say, okay, I may have a little time there. I can give you a call. If they say around 6 o'clock, say, well, I may be able to give you a call around 6 o'clock, 6:05. How's that sound? They say yes. And then you call them back. That's another way of taking control, because remember, you're making a cold call. And so you don't, even though you made contact with the seller, you don't want to leave it up to the seller to call you back, because most of the time they're not going to call. Remember, they have a property. Just think about it from a logical standpoint. They have a property over here with code violations on it. They have a property over here that's been boarded up for 5 years. Them calling you back 3 hours from now is not going to really be a priority of theirs. So you have to make it a priority of yours to say, okay, great. I apologize for calling you at this time. I give you a call back at this time. And guess what? When you call them back, they're not going to answer. So what you need to do is you just need to put them in your follow-up and just call them about 2 or 3 times per day until you get them back on the phone. All right. This is the part where this is the cold calling aspect of it, where a lot of people don't really talk about, because it comes off as being too pushy or too salesy or too persistent, but if you don't get in the habit of making these follow-up calls and being persistent in that, you're not going to close deals. You're not going to make any money. Every deal that we closed this year has all been from follow-ups. And, thank God we're to the point now where we're closing about 4 or 5 deals a month now. And all of them have been follow-ups. I called a guy again today. I've been talking to him for the last month. He has 4 properties. We already got a price. He's an older gentleman. Unfortunately, his wife recently passed a few months ago. So he's dealing with that. And he said that, she used to deal with these properties and stuff. So it's taking this guy a long time to adjust. I'm not being pushy, but I'm being persistent and let him know that, hey, I'm here for you. All right. And he told me today, on my way back home, that we're going to get together sometime this week. All right. So I'm going to take him at his word. I'm going to follow back. I told him I'll give him a call back tomorrow to schedule a time, either Tuesday or Wednesday, and we're going to go lock these properties up. But that's being persistent. This is a month into it. Most people will be like, oh, he's not motivated, or oh, he's wasting time. That's going to cause you not to make that money. You got to be persistent. You got to be consistent, and you got to be focused and committed, and you got to follow up. I mean, that's part of winning in this business. Now, I know we're talking about driving for dollars, but I'm also talking from the cold calling side of it. This is a side that most people, they just going to, remember how I said you got to differentiate differentiate yourself from other people, this is what's going to separate you from the average investor. Being persistent, being personable, being empathetic, having that connection with that person. Even when I call, I always introduce myself. Hey man, how you doing? That's his response every time. Hey man, how you doing? He's an older gentleman, and I go right into it. Man, I'm just checking in on you. I called a couple of times. He was sick. How you doing? Just kind of being personable. All right. But anyway, so you cold call these folks. You got to keep following up. And here's another thing too that I just want to go ahead and this is a very key point. Some of you, what I'm talking about, some of you are already doing this. And you may say, well, Ray, I already drive for dollars. I drive for dollars so many days per week, and I'm not making $10,000 a month, or it's not working for me. All right. And I mean, that happens. My response is one or two things is happening. Either one, you're not getting enough leads, because this is like you out here going and you're generating your own list. So you're just not getting enough leads. You're not talking to enough people. That's number one. But number two, you're not saying the right things. And that comes from training, that comes from experience, but it's one of those two things. If you're talking to enough people and you're saying the right things, you're closing deals. That's just how it is. You can ask any person out here that's closing deals with experience, that's doing deals consistently. And it's going to come down to, hey, we've got a lead flow, and, we know how to put these properties on contracts, and we know how to flip these contracts. I mean, it's just how it works. So if you're doing what I'm telling you to do and you're still not closing deals, then do me a favor and just take that personal responsibility. Say it's still something that I'm not doing correct. Because I'm telling you, this stuff works. What I'm sharing with you works. It just works. Same thing with bandit signs, same thing with direct mail, RVMs, all this stuff. All this marketing that people do to generate these leads, all this stuff works. All right. But I'm coming from the standpoint, if you have zero to little money, then driving for dollars is going to be your best route to go. All right. And then from there, you can go and door knock the neighbors. If you're in the neighborhood and let's say you got the address and stuff down, and let's say a neighbor is out in the yard, they're working, you can go introduce yourself. Remember, always introduce yourself. Say, hey, I'm interested in buying this property over here. How can I get in contact with the owner? And then, try to build that rapport, because a lot of times the neighbor's going to be helpful because they're tired of seeing this raggedy house bringing down their property values. So you're going to have some neighbors that are going to be like, oh, yeah, this is going on. They may tell you that this person is deceased and their children live in, a state over 3 states away or whatever. But it can give you information that you probably wouldn't be able to even find when you skip trace. And that kind of gives you some ammunition to continue to follow up and pursue these leads. But long and short of it, closing, making $10,000 a month, wholesaling houses is not a hard thing to do, as I said before. But I always want to preference that because my heart and your heart could be two different things. Keep that in mind. Some things that come natural and easy to you may be a huge challenge to the next person. So I always want to be conscious of that when I say something's easy or something's not hard or whatever, because we all have different skill levels. But what I share with you on this video is it's very, very simple technique to go out here, locate these leads, locate these deals, go and contact these sellers, these owners, and see who's motivated to sell now. I also want to emphasize that you've got to follow up with them. You're not going to close a deal on the first phone call. It very rarely happens. I've been in this business for 5 years. I've been in sales for like 25 years. Very rarely do you close a deal on the first phone call. Very rarely. All right. So change your expectations. Set your expectations high. Set your goals and stuff high, but also have realistic expectations to know that, hey, this is going to take some work. This is going to take some assertive effort to go out here and get these deals done, but at the same time, it's going to be totally worth it. All right. And, this is from the standpoint if you have little to no money to get started. If you have some money to invest, let's say, $500, $1,000 a month or more, then let's talk. If you got some type of marketing budget, then let's have a conversation. You can schedule an appointment to have a phone conversation. Calendly.com. That's CALENDLY.com/Ray Mabry, and that's RAYMABRY. Just schedule a time. Let's talk. Let's see what you got going on. Let's see if I can help you get your marketing going, because if you do have some money, then you're going to be able to, in my opinion, get there a lot quicker. Because, the driving for dollars is pretty time intensive, and it is going to be contingent upon what you run across, the properties that you see that's vacant. But, and in my opinion too, it kind of restricts you to a certain area, like wherever you are, or if you have somebody that's going by and do driving for dollars, you kind of restricted there. There are other ways, quicker ways to get in front of more people, that you can do deals more virtually, which I do a lot of deals virtually in other areas. And like I said, if you do have some funds available, let's have a conversation. I'm not trying to sell you on anything, but at the same time, the 10K formula is there. Just one simple technique, driving for dollars, can get you $10,000 a month or more payday. It's going to take some time, but at the same time, once you become skilled at it and you know what you're doing, it's just a matter of rinsing and repeating. And this is if you don't have any money. There's other techniques. If you do have funds and resources, like I said, let's talk. We can get you there a lot quicker. But if you have very limited funds or little resources, then my number one advice would be to drive for dollars. But don't do like everybody else doing and just send a postcard or send a letter and wait for them to call you. That's more reactive. You got to be proactive. So that's why I encourage you to go skip trace them and cold call them yourself. If they live in the area, you might even have to go and door knock them, but that's a little more advanced technique. I really wouldn't recommend you doing that unless you have some type of experience in sales, because now you're in front of them and it's just another whole level. It's a lot different to get rejected over the phone versus getting rejected in person. So I wouldn't recommend that if you're brand new at this, but if you have some type of sales experience, you're a people's person, if they're local, go door knock them. But all in all, driving for dollars can get you a $10,000 a month payday. I promise you. But you're going to have to put the work in. You got to go out here and make it happen, all right? Anyways, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. This replay will be up, so feel free to go and look at it over and over again. If you have any questions, remember, set a time. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. Calendly, that's CALENDLY.com/Ray Mabry. Just get on my calendar. Let's have a conversation this week. Let's see how I can help you advance and grow your business from where it is to where you want to go. If you have some funds, if you have some resources, we can get there a lot quicker, all right? This is your boy, Ray Mabry, about to sign off. Until next time, peace.